Hello, welcome back. Hopefully, you didn't go anywhere too far, but I wanted to finish up real quick with my friend who was an aspiring comic book writer. And he came up with that story with Luke Cage and Iron Fist. And I pulled out an old book which was done in, I think, the early 80s, late 70s. And my friend was younger than me, so he probably just never saw this. I'm positive he never saw this, but it was the exact same story, pretty much. They're almost the exact same scene, and I know he didn't see that anywhere because when I showed it to him in the book, he was surprised that it was already done. He also said he wanted to do a black Superman. And I said, really? And he was telling me his idea about a black Superman. And while he's telling me that, I walked over to where he had back issues and I pulled out a comic book called Icon. And I showed it to him. And Icon was a black Superman. It was done in the 1990s. Now, listen, what I'm going to, I'm only telling you these stories to let you know that pretty much everything has been done already. If you look back in the history of humans and creating stories, it's all been done. Believe me, you're talking about thousands of years of people doing stories. It's all been done. What you could do is you could mash some things together, and create kind of a new genre, sort of like there was a movie. It didn't do well. I'm guessing that's also, it's like 10, 15 years old, called Cowboys and Aliens. And it was a Western where aliens came down. I don't think it had really been done before. The closest I could think of was Billy the Kid meets Dracula. Or it was something along those lines. I saw when I was a kid. But that's about the best you could do, is to take two separate genres, and mash them together. It's still not going to be original. I guarantee you people are going to look at it and see you got that story from somewhere else. So I'm going to say don't worry about that stuff, okay? In fact, I would say embrace it. Just don't rip it off. Just don't take somebody's and blatantly copy somebody else's work. Make it your own. Do it your way. And with that being said, I'm gonna show you this right here. You may have seen the TV series, okay, with Black Lightning. This is the original Black Lightning from back in the 70s. I was a young, snot-nosed kid. And when I first saw this, I didn't see that. That's number one. I didn't see number two. Maybe I did, but back then, this character Merlin was not. He's not the same character you saw in the Arrow TV series, who's a tough guy. Back then, he was kind of a weak guy, and your villains actually make the hero. So when I saw Merlin, I kind of just ignored it. But I do remember this one, and this is number 3. And Clark Kent was on there, and we all know Clark Kent, Superman, and we see him getting jumped at this point. And I said, this I gotta buy, so I bought it. Okay, and it was written and created by Tony Isabella, and it was drawn by Trevor Von Eden and Vince Colletta. Now, Trevor Von Eden actually became an inspiration to me because he was like 14 or 15 when he was doing this, and I was only a couple of years younger than him at the time. So he became an inspiration where I was really gonna try to do that, and it never happened. But in either case, this is when I first became aware of Black Lightning. I mean, I became aware from here, but I skipped over it because I'm thinking Merlin, what the heck? But anyway, I picked it up for this, and if you look at the TV series, Black Lightning has electrical powers. This Black Lightning didn't. He was more of an acrobatic fighter, and he had a belt that put a force field around him. There was no real electricity powers. It was just like a force field to protect him. And he basically just fought people hand to hand. And this is before his daughters came along. So, the TV series picks up after he retired. And he's been retired for a while. But this is when he actually began as Black Lightning. So, I was reading a story about him. I was very interested, and then I saw him do this. He pulled off his mask, and his mask was almost like a helmet with a giant afro, and his regular superhero disguise, he had much shorter hair. And I thought that was really cool. He was also a teacher who came back. He went out. He won. He won in the Olympics, and then he came back home to help fight for his town. Here he is again with that mask. He's got the mask with the with the afro attached to it. And again, this was the 70s. There was a lot of people that had big afros back then. Now a lot of the styles are a lot more varied. But anyway, he won in the Olympics, and he came back and he decided he was going to fight crime. So he became Black Lightning. Anyway, I kind of like that idea. I kind of like about the idea about he's a street kid. He grew up in this was called Suicide Slum. He went out, he studied, and then he came back. He's now a teacher, and he's teaching the class. And he escaped and he came back to give back to the community. So I kind of like that. All right. And I'm going to kind of steal that idea. So I'm going to talk about a superhero, right? I'm going to do a superhero comic. You don't have to. You could think of something like Archie, anything you want. But I'm going to go ahead and use that basis. I like the idea that he grew up poor, and he became an athlete. Now, I'm thinking along the lines of Bruce Jenner. When I was a kid, I remember watching the Olympics, and I was watching the story of Bruce Jenner. And he was in the decathlon, which is it wasn't just track and field like Jefferson Pierce was. It's shot putting. Well, it is track and field, but it's not just running. It's shot putting, it's jumping, it's running. It's 10 different sports. And I was watching him winning medal after medal, and I wanted this guy to win the whole decathlon, and he did. And he came back, and he was on the box of Wheaties, and it was very exciting. I always admire Bruce Jenner. Bruce Jenner is no longer he no longer exists, but he was a hero of mine when I was young. So I'm gonna say he became an athlete, and I'm gonna say decathlon. I'm gonna kind of steal that, which it wasn't part of Black Lightning, but. What you do is you take a little bit from this person, you take a little bit from that person, you take a little bit from this person. You kind of put them all together to create a whole character who's brand new. So I'm going to put decathlon. And excuse my spelling. Sorry about that. Anyway, he also when Bruce Jenner came back, he started getting sponsored endorsements, and he grew his money that way. So I'm going to say that he became a sponsor. My guy also became a sponsor, which is not what Jefferson Pierce did. It's what Bruce Jenner did. Okay, so I'm taking a little bit from different people, and I'm kind of mushing them together. And then I'm going to say that instead of becoming a teacher, which is what Jefferson Pierce did, what this character did is he opened up a place. I remember in Manhattan there was a place called The Door, and The Door was a place for kids to go, and it was like a gymnasium, and it had classes and stuff like that, and you could learn different things, and it didn't cost you anything. I'm pretty sure it's still there in Manhattan, but my older brother went there all the time. I went there sometimes. It really kind of was more for my older brother, but I liked it. I thought it was a great idea. So I'm going to do is I'm going to say that once he became a sponsor, he took that money and he created a similar something to the door, which I still have to make up. I haven't done it yet. But I'm going to use that. I'm going to use the door from real life, and he's gonna have like a center for kids to come, and it gives them a place to stay off the streets and to learn skills and hobbies. And his sponsorship money, it has funded this foundation. He's going to have invested it, and the money that comes from his investment will create this foundation. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm trying to do a couple things at once. Anyway, this is kind of how you put together your character, and this is kind of where it begins. You don't know how much of this is going to make it to the reader. Sorry, I just hit the camera, but I'm kind of doing this a lot, and I did that with that hand and hit the camera. Anyway, what you're going to do is he has this foundation now, okay? And at the same time, he's going to see that he's going to have gained powers. Unlike Black Lightning, Black Lightning has powers in the TV show, and in the comics he has powers now. But when he started out, he didn't have powers. But I'm gonna give this guy powers. I'm gonna put him in what they call a superhero universe, and what that means is he's not the only superhero. It's sort of like when you watch The Flash and you just see the Flash show, and then a Flash occasionally will run into Arrow, Green Arrow, and they're in what's called as a shared universe. And then they also have Legends of Tomorrow, who are having adventures through time, but they're also all part of the shared universe. So I'm going to do something like that, but it won't be, well, we'll see what happens. But I'm going to put him in a shared superhero universe, okay? And that's how he's going to gain his powers. I haven't figured this stuff out yet. I'm working it out as I go along. One thing I remember, too, is when I was like 10, 13, I went ahead and did a whole slew of heroes, okay? And most of them are very cheesy. I was 10, give me a break. And I literally ripped off other superheroes. In fact, probably the most blatant one was a character called Red Ring. So those of you that know that there's a Green Lantern out there understands where Red Ring comes from. So anyway, I took some of those that weren't that bad of a ripoff, and I put them together into a government agency type group. And if you want to look at Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's kind of what I had in mind. But they did it before I did it before them, but they made the TV series before me. So I guess if anyone sees me do that book at some point later on, they'll think that that's where I ripped it off from. Anyway, I got the idea to take the superheroes and put them together with regular secret agents, and they were going to form a group. And then there were others that I thought they were just too much of a ripoff that I can't really use them. And one of those characters was a character that I ripped off from Daredevil, and his name was Super Sensa. Now, I don't remember much about the character, okay? But that's his powers are going to be, the Super Sensa powers. What I did was I took Daredevil, who was kind of like an acrobat. We've seen the TV show, right? He's got super hearing. He's got he could smell, that kind of stuff. Except he's blind. This character was he actually could see, but his eyes could do X-ray, telescopic vision, microscopic vision. He could also see the various spectrums of vision that we can't see, such as X-ray. Okay, I'm going to end this now and restart again, okay, for the last one. Thank you.